Vigilant viewers, we have a very update in the Chris Savino situation. If you wish to know more about it, or at least my wild take, please check out the video I did here. But after this video, all I can say is, I totally called it. So after this video went live, I shared this video around on Reddit, one of which being the official Loud House subreddit. It would later get taken down for stirring up drama, which I deserve. It was nobody's fault but my own. However, this got the attention of the owner of Chris's old YouTube channel, the now defunct Christian Car Rides. My informant, who I'll just refer to as CCR, told me Chris's side of the whole story, and I want to get it out there as much as possible. I'm going to share what they said, but first, I want to give 3 disclaimers. 1. I emphasized in my first video the importance of evidence, and that remains true here. CCR didn't provide much proof for their claims, so I encourage everyone to take this information with a grain of salt until further notice. 2. CCR said that while they were okay with me talking about the content of our conversations, they asked that I don't share around the DMs we have. I personally find this request to be a tad odd, but wishes are wishes, so the messages have been reworded and will be read by my good friend Vapchan. Please subscribe to her. She makes funny media videos, now with puppets. And 3, of course, this video is going to be potential. And 3, of course, this video is going to be talking about Cheyenne Curtis. And some very passionate things are going to be said about her. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, if you know her, please send her this. I would love to see her respond. With that out of the way, here's how our conversation went.
I saw your post about Chris Savino on the Loud House subreddit and really liked it. I actually got blocked after debating with some fans about what I believe to be false allegations against him. I had made some videos on Christian car rides, but I've since set them to private. If you're interested in covering this topic in more depth, maybe even doing a series that breaks down each accusation, I have a lot of material and would be happy to answer any questions. I can also provide all of my old videos as a resource. Chris was fired under false pretenses. The allegations against him were fabricated. As for his affair with Cheyenne Curtis, an animator who was in the industry but did not work with him, regardless of how you feel about that, it was this situation that triggered a wave of false misconduct accusations. The Me Too movement and women in animation were used as tools to push out high-level employees with strong contracts and replace them with less experienced professionals. These new hires were given weaker contracts that benefited the studios, with lower pay and fewer protections compared to the original employees.
Wait, you made Christian Car Rides? Do you know Chris? I asked because I really want to do a live stream with him as he responds to the accusations on Cartoon Brew.
Christian Car Rides was created to respond to the allegations against Chris. We aimed to go through each accusation and highlight how some of the women involved were also engaging in flirtatious conversations. In reality, these were just text messages exchanged nearly 20 years ago. Out of the 11 women who came forward, I believe only 2 or 3 actually had those kinds of interactions with him. And even then, it was mutual, not harassment. They willingly participated. There was no actual workplace harassment. The only person who had a real relationship with Chris was Cheyenne Curtis. Yes, he had an affair, but she was a consenting adult who was fully aware that he was married. She wasn't a victim. None of them were. As for your question, I don't know if Chris would be open to doing a live stream. He's exhausted from constantly defending himself and reliving the past. He just wants to move on at this point. By the way, Christian Car Rides is my channel. Anyway, great video. If I had one suggestion, I'd say try to focus more on the core topic and dive straight into the most important details. It would help with engagement. Just my 2 cents.
Ah, I see. I have another question, as I wonder this a lot. Why doesn't Chris sue for defamation?
It's pretty straightforward. Money, if you get what I mean. Legally, Chris isn't in a position to fight back or speak out against Nickelodeon because of NDAs. Suing would put his contract at risk, and that contract is what allows him to continue providing for his family. Speaking hypothetically, if you're a showrunner or creator, you typically own a stake in your work, assuming you had a solid contract. That ownership brings in revenue. But if you go against the company and violate your NDA, they can legally strip you of that ownership, meaning you lose your income. I'm not a business expert or lawyer, but I know it's incredibly complex, and at the end of the day, it all comes down to money. Sure, you can fight back and even win, like what happened with the Rick and Morty creator. But what's the end result? Even if you clear your name, your career is still damaged, studios remain hesitant to work with you, and you're left struggling to support your family.
Curious question, and forgive me if you explained this already. But what was this about Chris apologizing to one of his accusers?
Chris has never spoken to or apologized directly to any of his accusers. During Nickelodeon's investigation, he was legally barred from doing so, and he hasn't reached out to them since. The only apology he ever made was at the Animation Guild hearing, a public statement that he was pressured into making by those involved. He never outright claimed innocence regarding his actions, but the issue is that his so-called accusers misrepresented their role in their interactions with him. The allegations were distorted and taken out of context to paint a different picture than what actually happened. A lot of people assumed his apology was an admission of guilt for everything being said online, rather than an expression of regret for having an affair, betraying his wife, and exchanging flirtatious text messages with some women 15 to 20 years ago. Claims of blackmail, sexual harassment, and other serious accusations were exaggerated or entirely fabricated to make for more sensational stories, mostly pushed by outlets like Cartoon Brew and BuzzFeed. This led to a flood of false allegations from individuals who had no real involvement with him at all. People flirt online and over text all the time. If it was always consensual, which there's no reason to believe it wasn't, then what exactly is the basis for these accusations?
I'll say this. The affair Chris had with Curtis was not cool for a number of reasons. However, it clearly wasn't as bad as she made out to be. Would you agree?
The only real victim in this situation was Chris's ex-wife. Cheating is of course wrong, but let's be clear. The woman he had an affair with wasn't innocent either. She was just as responsible as he was. She had no real grounds to claim wrongdoing on his part beyond the affair itself. Their relationship lasted 2 years, during which she actively encouraged him to leave his wife. When he didn't, she sought revenge. At the hearing, everything she said was misleading, though she didn't actually say much. She kept things vague, just enough to shift blame and portray herself as a victim of an affair, which doesn't even make sense. How can someone willingly participate in an affair and then claim to be a victim of it? She knew full well that he was married with 3 kids and made her choices anyway. The real issue isn't just the affair. It's the fact that she knowingly twisted the narrative to destroy a man's career and family out of jealousy. That level of manipulation is deeply disturbing.
By the way, I talk about it in my video, but there was apparently a 2-week investigation Nickelodeon did in between suspending and firing him. Does he know what they might have found? Because as a media critic, I know a plot hole when I see one, and that's a damn big plot hole.
Chris has no idea what Nickelodeon supposedly found in their investigation, and he doesn't believe they uncovered anything substantial. Instead, it seems more likely that they faced pressure from women in the animation industry who were influenced by Cheyenne's story during the height of the Me Too movement. The allegations first surfaced in a private Facebook group for women in animation, a space where members were actively looking to call out men. Many were eager to feel like they were part of the movement, even if it meant throwing people under the bus without concrete evidence. I was invited to that group back when I worked in animation, and I found the entire premise absurd. The industry isn't dominated by men, nor is it some patriarchal or misogynistic space. The reality is that animation is an incredibly competitive field with low pay, and breaking into it or advancing can be extremely difficult. Unfortunately, instead of acknowledging those challenges, some people would rather blame others for their struggles rather than improving their own skills or navigating the industry's demands.
And that's what I've been told. Once again, thank you to Vapchan for joining me in this endeavor. Please go subscribe to her. And you may be wondering, so what now? Well, I'm sure there's people who still think he was wrong. Even I have some criticisms for him myself, as I had in this video. However, if CCR is to be believed, then it would prove my point that due process and the damage the lack of it can cause. If you ever seen the animated short, There's a Man in the Woods, you know just how badly allegations, true or false, could impact the lives of the accused without any form of due process. And unfortunately, the internet doesn't realize this. Rather, they just lump everything under the same label. Cheating, flirting, harassment, assault, but those are not the same thing. If we don't distinguish between these different types of wrongdoings, real predators can get away while people who made mistakes get unfairly destroyed. Movements like the Me Too movement are important, but when companies use them to remove high-paid employees and replace them with cheap labor, that's corporate manipulation. We need to recognize when activism is being used as a cover for profit-driven decisions. I'm not here to tell you that Chris Savino was a saint. I'm not here to tell you he was a monster. I'm here to say this. We should always demand transparency. We should always ask questions. And most importantly, we should never let emotions or outrage replace truth. There's a reason why true justice is blind. But today, it's because if it wasn't blind, then today it's Chris Savino. Tomorrow, it could be you. So stay skeptical, stay fair, and as always, stay vigilant. Oh, and if you made it this far into the video, I have something to say for those who just came here to dislike or leave a hate comment.
And the inside is completely dry.